Hello and welcome along to another episode of Tackling Sport podcast, and we're continuing our fan stories this week. Delighted to welcome you here. It's Daniel here, joined alongside me as always by my brother Sean.
How's it going?
And we're bringing back a podcast favourite from the Premier League predictions over the last few months, and Leeds United fan, James Moffatt. James, welcome to the podcast.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, James.
After Sean's predictions at the start of the year, it's nice to be here on a positive note. Anything to say for that, Sean?
No, well, I wasn't that bad. I said Leeds wouldn't get relegated, but I didn't think they'd be as good as what they were. So there's worse predictions out there.
Yeah. What was the gulf you predicted between Leeds and Arsenal, Sean?
I think it was about 10 places. I don't think it was 10. 10,
10 goals. Goal difference in the end, was it?
You must be delighted with it, though, in all fairness. Like, first season in the Premier League and living up to expectations.
The first 15 minutes against Liverpool was fucking terrifying to watch. They were so much worse. And then they grew into it. And then never looked back from there. So that 4-3 cracker at the start.
What did you think when Bielsa first came to the club? Because, like, obviously there was there's loads of stories and legends that surround him. Like,
expected nothing. 20 managers since I've been 22 probably, so I was a merry-go-round for a while. Yeah, no one really knew who he was, and if they tell you they're a fucking liar. So you couldn't really expect anything, and then you heard stories about all the players picking up rubbish out in the rivers and stuff like this, and it was all a bit like, what's going on down there? It's another psychopath. But along he came, and I've never looked back. I think at this stage I'm a Bielsa fan and not a Leeds fan. It's going to be a sad day when he goes.
It seems like, yeah, a lot of Leeds fans are like that. It's just so quickly he's turned it into the Bielsa show down there, and he just gets Leeds. And he's even brought Leeds to like these new heights. But like some of the training methods are like mad. Like, I've read a few stories of like the laps and all that jazz.
The murder ball, the famous murder ball. Yeah, sounds fucking weird, but yeah, it seems to work. They look it's just running. Kind of takes the fun. I'd say it's brutal to play in. Just takes the fun out of football and run. Be fitter and stronger than your opponent, but it looks great.
And Sean, in fairness, like I think you were kind of looking at Leeds from the players' point of view. Like it just seems Bielsa is getting the best. Like Patrick Bamford's the perfect example. Like Leeds fans, I'm sure Moff would say, we're pissed off with the amount of chances he's missed and all that jazz. But now he's turned into like this unbelievable striker on the fringes of the England squad.
Yeah, well, I think that was a lot of people's big worry for Leeds, as I wasn't sure if Bamford was going to get all these goals, and obviously they spent a lot of money on Rodrigo, and it probably hasn't really worked as well as they planned. And some of the other guys who've come in have been better acquisitions. But yeah, I just didn't think we'd see Bamford hit the heights that he has in the league. Now he still has missed an awful lot of chances, and I think that's just credit to Leeds and how quickly they've adapted to the Premier League and the subtle changes that Bielsa's made from game to game, and it's worked. And like I said, I think Bamford scoring his first goal against Liverpool, getting the first goal of the season out early, probably set the tone for him. And yeah, he's just grown from confidence there. And to be honest, I didn't really think he had it in him because he's found a home at Leeds, but for a number of years he was on loan at different clubs playing in the Premier League and just never quite grasping his opportunity. But this year he has, and under Bielsa, I mean, you really see him showing all different parts of his game at the moment.
And do you reckon they'll continue that next season? Like obviously everyone talks about second season syndrome, but with this team it seems that Bielsa, they're obviously aware of it, so they're going to go out of their way to make sure it doesn't happen. Well,
I think it's interesting. I don't think anyone can really predict what's going to happen with Leeds. I mean, they could be at one extreme to the other. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see what happens when the fans get back. And there also is that little bit of level of expectation now with Leeds, and obviously having adapted to the Premier League as well as they've had. And some of the summer, for example, Calvin Phillips has had, how they then deal with that added pressure. And hopefully, there'll be fans at Ellen Road. I think it'll be a brilliant atmosphere and be great to see the Leeds fans properly back. Because that's really the where the size of the clubs come from, the one club city. So I think it'd be really interesting to see how they adapt to it. But like I said, when expectations are higher, it's always that difficult balancing act you have to play.
Yeah, Matt, for you, I'd say like the fans being back almost kind of helps that second season syndrome, but it's probably a big transfer window for you as well.
I don't know, because Rodrigo looked unbelievable at the end of last year. He started scoring goals and was flying, so he's effectively a new signing coming in. I don't know. Yeah, it's just nice that they've signed a left back from Barcelona. They've signed a midfielder there from Chelsea. It's nice being linked with these big clubs as opposed to getting excited for Dwight Gale getting linked for 6 summers in a row and thinking, geez, wouldn't it be great if he came along? Remember when Vernon Anita signed from Newcastle a few years ago, and I thought he was going to be fucking dynamite. Fella came, played 4 games, and looked like, I don't even know. It was the worst sign in the world. And it was those little moments that killed you. You got yourself up, and then you realised best we're doing is 11th in the championship here.
And there are a few seasons in League One as well, obviously.
Yeah, a few good years. 2008, that's the one that haunts me. 15-point deduction. Get into the playoff final, come up against Doncaster and lose. It's tough going in. I think 2008 was the year Chelsea and Man United were in the Champions League final as well. So everyone in Holly Park was fucking buzzing, and here was little old James crying in the corner. Neil Sullivan, a Leeds reject in nets for Doncaster, turned into Manuel Neuer for the game. Kept everything out.
I actually remember that playoff final, right?
They show it in Football Gold when you're really stuck for something to do on a summer's day. It might appear on Sky Sports 3 or something. Yeah, bad memories.
So when did you first start supporting them in your head? Like, what can you remember? Like your first memory or anything of supporting Leeds? Or
I really think it was just always there. Big Jer bullied me into it, and he doesn't even really follow Leeds now himself. So
I was going to ask. I didn't think he did. Yeah.
He likes to jump on Twitter and get a few stats and pretend like he knows what's going on. But other than that, although, I just kind of remember the early days, and I think he was at the Champions League semi-final or quarter-final years ago. So back before I got any sort of enjoyment from.
It's because our dad, Eamon, he supports Leeds. So like Sean, we did well to avoid. In one sense, we did well to avoid. But Jesus, looking at the 2 clubs now, I don't know.
You could always jump ship. There was a lot of people saying they were going to jump ship. The Grady 6. I haven't heard anyone jump ship. What's going on? Your football club hates you, lads.
Sean.
Grady 6. No, yeah, I think with loads of people's parents or dad support Leeds. Obviously, I think it's to do with that team they had, that great Leeds team under Brian Clough and Don Revie, and before then, your John Giles, obviously growing up in Ireland. But most people over the age, I suppose, of 50 now are more than likely Leeds or Liverpool fans. That's just what Leeds were back in the day. But now, I'm not sure anyone has moved because of the Grady 6.
Yeah, Moff, you mentioned just before we came on air there that you wrote down a list of managers over the last few years. Do you want to kind of give that to us, sir? Because for those, I'll be honest, I'm having a look this morning. I had a quick look this morning. They're lads I don't even remember.
Before Bielsa, Leeds were the biggest banter club in England, and easy to say now, they're fucking pathetic. So there was Paul Heckenbottom there before Bielsa. Then we had Thomas Christensen, Gary Monk, Steve Evans, Hughie Rosler, Neil Redfern was interim manager twice. Darko Milanic was there. I forgot about him. 4 weeks. Dave Hockaday, Brian McDermott, and Neil Warnock were in recent times. So it was every time. There was one bit. It was Massimo Cellini was the owner, and he was the biggest nut job in football easily. He has been known for money laundering in the works in Italy for a good while now. So he's worth a Google search. He's just a nut job, but he had 2 big things he hated. One was the colour purple, and the other was the number 17. So if Leeds were staying in a hotel and they had purple rooms, I think was a story that he made them go and stay in a different hotel. So the night before kickoff, they arrived. Now get out of here. We're not staying in the purple rooms. And then I think in Cagliari, where he was chairman beforehand, he had the number 17 removed from every seat. in the stadium. So you were 16A, 16B, 18, and just crack like that. But he's known as the manager eater in Italy. And yeah, he's just a lot of weird stories about him. But I think he was just looking for a yes man for a while. He could run the club. And then once things started going wrong, he'd sack them and try and look like the hero. Well, it was messy.
Jesus, that's a long list of managers and background stories. Who kind of stands out to you there, like Sean? I know we spoke. Well, go on, Moffatt. Steve Evans.
Sorry, it was brilliant. Brian McDermott was doing an okay job. The baldy Redden fella, if you remember him.
Yeah,
everyone was happy enough with him, and kind of looked like they might push for playoffs. So that's when he took over the club. Was Brian McDermott was manager, and anyway, he sacked Brian McDermott the second he got the job. But anyway, it turns out he was getting investigated from the Football League. So he wasn't effectively the manager yet. So Ross McCormack, the striker, if you remember him, went on to Sky Sports News and was like, Brian McDermott's not sacked. Breaking news, Brian McDermott's sacked. He rang up and was like, Brian McDermott's not sacked. And they were like, we're getting rumours he is. And he was on the phone. It wouldn't happen nowadays, but it was him live. And he goes, well, if Brian McDermott's gone, so am I.
Yeah, I remember something like that.
An hour later, it comes out Brian McDermott has been sacked. So then Ross McCormack's there probably on Twitter tweeting like, fucking, don't mind me, didn't mean it. But it turns out he hadn't become the chairman yet. So Brian McDermott was reinstated as Leeds manager. They went out, beat Huddersfield 5-1. And then obviously he couldn't sack him. So he stayed in the job for about 3 or 4 more months. And then they mutually parted ways. So I'd say they had a few interesting conversations amongst themselves.
Yeah, Sean, you remember? I vaguely remember. Like I do remember you saying Ross McCormack, and I do remember Brian McDermott being sacked and then not being sacked. Like you come home from a day when you'd realise all that had happened, basically.
Yeah, I forgot how good Ross McCormack was, man. He used to be unbelievable. He's one of those classic strikers like a Cameron Girona, just ripped it up in the Championship and never quite got the break in the Premier League. But no, my personal favourite was Steve Evans, big Steve Evans. And whenever I speak to any Leeds fans, I make sure to mention his name. I'm not sure if anyone remembers the Rotherham Cup final nearly 10 years ago when Alex Ravel scored and Steve Evans runs down the touchline and started nearly taking his top off.
His trousers nearly fell down, didn't they?
He's a big lad, but he even got the Leeds job. I very clearly remember every couple of weeks on Sky Sports News there was something to do with Leeds on, and whenever there was a Leeds game on, there was always something to do with the manager. I mean, in fairness to them, they come a long way, and I think it just shows you with club ownerships. And we have in this country. It happens in every country around the world. You get a few bad eggs that own football clubs. They can really destroy what's going on at a football club and kind of rip up the identity. I know there's a lot of clubs here in Ireland that are having problems with their owners. A lot of disgruntledness amongst fans, and sometimes their voice, certainly when they aren't doing well or when Leeds are in Championship or League One and maybe forgotten about. Similar with maybe a club like Ipswich at the moment, where they're disgruntled at their ownership and nothing really gets said in the mainstream media because they're not in the Premier League, or here in Ireland they're not one of the top 2 or 3 clubs. So I think that's always interesting to find out about things.
Yeah, for you, Moff, you'd have had all that. Would you still, even when they were in League One or Championship and the battle days of that all those years, would you still be watching every game, or would you just keep up to date with the live score? It's probably hard to find
streams. I don't think you really could back then. There's nothing you could have done when they were in League One.
Yeah.
Championship the last few years, I'm in some weird Facebook group with a lot of creepy Leeds fans who post links into the game, so that was all right. But yeah, there was not much you could do in League One in 2009. You'd give your laptop AIDS if you even attempted to find a stream to that kind of game. But yeah, I would have paid attention. It got tough to pay attention to when all the Cellini stuff was going on. There's just player turnover, game to game. You wouldn't know who was starting any of this stuff. It wasn't really your team. Just signed a bunch of Italian losers who couldn't play football, and they'd come 18th every year. So I'm surprised, to be honest. I'm surprised they stuck with it.
Yeah, that's the mad thing.
It
Like
was.
I know I watched the Amazon documentary, and while it wasn't like, or no, was it Amazon? Yeah, it was Amazon, I think.
Yeah.
Just gave a bit of insight into the workings of getting promoted or nearly get promoted. But did you think the chance was gone when that first Bielsa season?
I think that's the best thing that happened, Leeds, to be honest.
Yeah,
Without a shadow of a doubt, was the extra year in the championship.
Yeah.
Oh, that game it's haunt you though, that game, wouldn't it? Jason Knight on the bench and everything, Sean. I think that was his first game on the bench for Derby.
Yeah, what was it?
The game was won. Gaetano Berardi bought in under Cialini, the only one to stick it out, the Italian. I'd say he's played 100 games for Leeds and has 9 red cards. Just loves the 2-footer. We get promoted to the championship and now he's a hero, but everyone after that game was begging him never to play for the club again. And now he's a cult hero and they're printing T-shirts and all the works.
But I think
things.
The best thing with that was obviously the Spygate story and everything that came out about that, because it was Derby where they caught him, and then the return leg and one of the league games that was at Ellen Road when they had all that trouble and Frank Lampard wasn't happy and there was all that, and then it came to obviously in the playoffs, met each other in the playoffs, and the first leg was a bit of a feisty atmosphere and the Leeds fans thought they were through, and then the second leg and all that, I just remember Kiko Casilla. I don't think I can ever get that image out of my head. I mean, it has to be some of the worst goalkeeping I think you'll ever see, and then
unsettled the whole team.
It was just a classic playoffs game, second leg playoffs game where literally everything happened. But I think that the story goes with the Derby celebrations. I think Derby thought they were promoted that night with some of the celebrations that went on. But
you were watching with me. You actually said that, Sean, or we were watching it. They're celebrating like they've won the
league.
I mean, promoted you.
Frank, I think
I've heard someone say, but
I think if you were Aston Villa, you probably knew you were knew who you'd, I suppose, be up for, really, because with the way Derby were at the end, you knew you'd really fancy them against Villa. If you were Villa, you'd fancy them against Derby. But that was an incredible night. But it did almost feel like that was Leeds, because for all the season they were the dominant side that year. They should have won it. You had all that thing with the Aston Villa game with the not kicking the ball out. So it had everything that season, and it was one of them where you felt like that was it. Leeds had almost blown an opportunity, and fairness to them, they came back in. Bielsa stayed another year. There was a lot of talk where they weren't sure if he was gonna, but he
house hunting at the moment, Sean. He's house hunting in Leeds at the moment. That's the rumour.
So he's staying then.
He's staying. He's only a young pup when you think Roy Hodgson is. But I find it interesting with that Derby game. That was the first time really Stuart Dallas started all year. He was never really Bielsa's first year. Stuart Dallas was a bench warmer. So next season came along, and this year I think he should have been in the Premier League Team of the Year. I'll throw it out there. Kevin De Bruyne and all the boys who played 20 games getting in at City. Stuart Dallas was fucking brilliant all year long. You got
to mention in our podcast, didn't you, Sean? Remember?
Someone said it, yeah.
Someone said it. I think Sean said it. All right, or Sean Gallen. But it's phenomenal. Like the Leeds, like as we were saying, like to that extra season in the Championship, and then the Premier League this season, or like the season just gone. It almost feels like there's no stopping them in the sense that they can really give Europe a go this season, like or go for Europe.
It's Bielsa's pre-season. Like the Leeds team were back around quarterfinals of Euros.
Serious.
So, yeah, like you think Rafinha didn't have a preseason. Rodrigo had COVID and it looked like he was lingering with him all year. So, all those boys with a full Bielsa preseason. Scary task. If I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be worried. Arteta ball doesn't come close to Bielsa ball.
I will be clipping this after the show, Sean. But will Arsenal finish ahead of Leeds this season? I know you have to process that thought. Yeah.
No, Jesus, I hope so.
It's probably close. Like, and as you meant, like Bamford didn't go to the Euros. You know what I mean? So he's going to rest up, big preseason again, go again. Do you know what I mean? Like they're all probably. It's a scary thought, man.
What about if England won the Euros? I think Calvin Phillips player of the tournament outside that.
He was very good. In fairness.
Absolutely not. No, it was. Had to be Sterling, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have been Sterling.
How's Saka going to recover?
There's no need for that question. We're talking Leeds now. We don't want to be discussing poor Bukayo Saka.
True.
Did you see Smith Rowe sign a contract today?
Smith Rowe. Also, the main man, Smith Rowe, Leeds United legend. We can talk about him here.
Yeah, do it. Off you go.
Huddersfield, West Brom, sitting in the gaff with Ger. All my aunties out in the back garden. He puts one past West Brom and Leeds United are champions. That was the game. Smith Rowe scored the winner in that to secure Leeds as champions.
Cans of Heineken, or what was it? Cans of
yeah, everything and anything. It was a good day for the parish.
If you think back then on that era, Moff, even going all the way back to Dennis Wise before the new ownership, so there would have been Dennis Wise, Gary McAllister took it. Do you remember that sort of era? Because that was the last time I proper watched League One or Championship and keep an eye out for Leeds and stuff.
Well, there was David Batty and Gary Speed and a few of those who were somewhat famous. Like, their academy looked unreal when they went down. It's probably only that they got a couple of million for them that they managed to stay a club. That whole bankruptcy crack, getting cash for Rio Ferdinand, and they had Aaron Lennon and a few other random players you know the names of.
I didn't know Aaron Lennon started there.
Yeah. I think him, James Milner, they all went for peanuts. And Fabian Delph emerged. Fabian Delph in League One. He was the screensaver of the family computer. Just his peanut head. Nothing else. What a player he was. He was like Lionel Messi in League One as a 17-year-old. And then Everton came along and who was it? Everton took him. Everton took him for 6 million. Oh no, was that Jermaine Beckford?
Was it Villa, Sean?
Aston Villa. Yeah. Aston Villa took him.
And where he was playing, Fabian Delph?
He was centre mid, and he was everywhere. He could have done what he wanted.
I didn't realise it. What other
Remember
players?
Becchio?
Luciano Becchio. Him and Jermaine Beckford.
It's
funny, like I remember Luciano Becchio and Jermaine Beckford like they were world-class players. They were both scoring 22 goals in League One.
Becchio was unbelievable. Unbelievable player.
Yeah. Great in League One.
Well, what about that day game off against United? I'd say that would have been as someone
Neil
who would have.
Kilkenny clicks it over the top.
Yeah.
On ITV.
Thomas Cusack decides he doesn't know what to do with himself. Stands in the middle of nowhere. Beckford scuffs it into the ground. 1-0. I have that game on DVD and I haven't taken it out of the plastic yet. It doesn't need to be watched. Collector's item.
And that was United at their peak, like the city.
Yeah, if you look at the United team as well, it was Rooney, Berbatov up front. I think their only weird starter was Gabriel Oberton, who wasn't necessarily a 14-year-old loser. He still played a good few games for United. So, yeah, that was a huge one. I think it was the following year they went up, though, so it ended up being
League One back then.
That was League One, yeah. I think that was the 15 points season where they were deducted 15 points.
Yeah.
And then 5 games, 5 wins, 0 points.
You started the season with 5 wins and you're on 0. Jesus, that's mad stuff altogether. Like,
it's been a roller coaster.
And what jersey is that at the moment that you're wearing?
I think 1992 FA Cup winners or something.
The Yorkshire even post.
Great paper.
What other players stick out for you then, Moff, when you're thinking down through the years? I honestly didn't know like Aaron Lennon.
I messaged Charlie Taylor, the Burnley left back, on Facebook the other day. I was out drinking with another Leeds fan, and he ended up telling me Charlie Taylor was his favourite player. So I added Charlie Taylor on Facebook when I was a sad little 13-year-old in my bedroom some night, I'd say, and he accepted. But I got the same from him. Yeah, I got the same from him. No reply, but you can see that the message was read by him. So happy enough with that. Who else? Lewis Cook was class for a while. Yeah. He's very good still. Sam Byram, I loved him. He's sitting on the bench for West Ham or something, maybe.
Yeah. What about Johnny? He's at Norwich. What about Johnny Howson?
Loved him. He scored the goal to take Leeds to final that they lost. Injury time winner. Kieran Westwood was in nets for Carlisle. That's how I remember. He was like 19, Kieran Westwood. Looked unbelievable that game. Hasn't lived up for him. Everyone was saying he was going to be the next Shay Given in Sky Sports that day, and didn't peter out that way for poor Kieran.
Anyone else chance to spring to mind, lads, in terms of other classic Leeds players down through the years? But they've been, like you said, Moff, there've been so many of them. Well, I honestly didn't know about Fabian Delph or Aaron Lennon.
Yeah. Fabian Delph could have been club captain of 18, but that was probably, we know he's going. Let's milk him for an extra 2 or 3 million and say he's captain. Yeah, it's tough to know. Anyhow, there's a fella, Alex Mowat, who's just gone to West Brom. He's very good. Just rips it up in the Championship.
I was surprised Leeds let him go a couple of years ago, and he went to Barnsley. It
was a weird old transfer.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Because he kind of come through in the club's youth system for a few years as well. And I always think I remember that being a really weird sell at the time for Leeds.
The night he got sold, him and another guy, Don Polian, got sold, and it was transfer deadline day. 11 o'clock at night, the Leeds Twitter account was like, "Don't go to bed just yet. We have big news coming." Sold 2 players, transfer window closed. Never heard anything else. That just summed up that time. That period of time just summed up in that.
They're talking about it now, Mo. I don't know how you got through, because I'd always remember Paul Scott would be managing us at the time, Sean, well, my team anyway, and you wouldn't even mention Leeds. I know you had watched the highlights of the Football League show, Sean, the night before, and might briefly touch on it, but just when things would get going, which is why I think when you nearly got promoted from the Championship the first season under Bielsa, everyone just thought, classic Leeds, or the old
Leeds are falling apart again.
Yeah. I didn't want to bring up that song, but you brought it up.
So. I love it now.
I'd say you sing it all the time. Yeah. For those who don't know how it goes, Leeds are falling apart again.
Bit of enthusiasm, Dan. I want to hear that again.
I didn't quite commit to it there. But you know what I mean? Like I thought it's the classic Leeds, like similar to Arsenal. Like Arsenal have a reputation that we regularly live up to, just good bottlers and that sort of thing. Where and I think Leeds for ages kept living up to that expectation.
It was when I lost hope was Gary Monk's year. Gary Monk was he'd Leeds for a year. Obviously, he's the most crooked man in football, it seems, if you've read the articles on him. Signing 16 or 17 players in the last 3 years from the same agent.
Oh, yeah?
It's interesting. Yeah, he's looking like he's in a lot of trouble. But Leeds were like third all year, and then just kind of fell out of the promotion race, and then lost probably the last 5 of their last 7 games and finished 11th. But he'd shown hope in that 40. And then next thing, Gary Monk has mutually departed from Leeds. And that was then I was like, all right, what's going on here? Thomas Christensen's replacing him, some Danish fella no one's ever heard of. What's the point? What is the point? I think I like Barcelona now.
Was it something to do with Gary Monk's style of play or anything, or
I didn't. It was all brutal back then. They just won a few games. I don't think he had any style of football. And he's also a charisma vacuum. He's the most boring man in the world.
Is he actually?
I remember being with one of our uncle's mates who used to play for Sheffield Wednesday, and I remember going when Gary Monk got announced that Gary Monk was going to be the new Sheffield Wednesday manager. I went, "Oh, Gary Monk's going to be the new Sheffield Wednesday manager," and the look on his face was as if I told him that the Grim Reaper was coming over to take over. I mean, Gary Monk actually had a pretty successful time at Swansea, with how it fell from. But ever since then, I mean, God help us, some of the jobs he's done, and how it's fallen for him. But I mean, like the list of Leeds managers that they've had is unbelievable, and then how they stumbled across Bielsa ball and how it's worked for them. I think the new regime at Leeds deserve a lot of credit for that. It seems like there's a lot of good things that they've done. I think sometimes it's about trying to find the right ownership structure, the right CEOs, and having it all work, and I think it has for Leeds. But for a number of years, they were in the wilderness. People like Gary Monk probably alluded to that. I do kind of have remember there was a little bit of hope around the Gary Monk era, but how it quickly evaporated. But I think Leeds did have that kind of tendency for a few years to kind of get good around Christmas and then the New Year, and then almost fall away. And I think that's what happened to Bielsa's first year. So I think it just shows you how much they've improved since that, to keep going, and where they come from really to have won the title, and then to have last year finish where they did in the Premier League is an unbelievable achievement.
It's always been the same though. Like under Bielsa, they haven't really fallen apart. It's just getting a few injuries, and then the squad. Leeds have the worst squad in the Premier League by a mile, I'd say. Like, I think they had 2 subs this year that didn't play a minute. 2 young lads, like that, just permanent bench warmers because there's no one else there. So you get 1 or 2 injuries, you're just not going to use your bench because they're not good enough to come on. Like, one stat I want to clear up is that Leeds United leaky defence. They had as bad at injuries as anyone. Leeds' best 2 defenders are Robin Koch and Diego Llorente. Did not play once together last year. So, what was it? When Arsenal scored a few on them, and when Man United beat them, they had Pascal Struijk and someone injured that Luke Ayling played centre-back in both of the games. So if you take out, there's 2-3 games where they conceded 5 or 6 goals. Luke Ayling played centre-back in all of them. So if you take those games out, there's 15 goals, and the goal record doesn't look as bad as it was. What was it, like 60-something goals he conceded?
Yeah, Sean had a few pops at these defending from memory anyway last season, Sean. But yeah, I'm being sold on Moff's reasoning here. Like,
well, there was that. Yeah, I mean they spent a lot of money on your man Koch and a few injuries early on.
Absolutely gorgeous. They dropped the kid earlier, and him, Rafinha, and Calvin Phillips, they looked fantastic, Sean.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, I think it was the United game where honestly United could have scored a couple of 100 goals that day. But yeah, I mean,
you don't expect Scott McTominay to pop up with 2 screamers though at the same time.
No, there is a bit of that too, yeah.
And the Arsenal game as well. Like, I know, Sean, you've had kind of like, it's, Bielsa's maybe downside is like he's kind of coaching is unbelievable, but maybe the basics of defending, like, would that be purely down to personnel, or is that something that Bielsa should do better? Like say that Arsenal game and United game stick out.
Yeah, I think I must say I was pretty impressed with Leeds towards the end of the season. They did, because I mean it's very easy for a lot of teams where they're kind of the season's done and dusted, and I don't know. I think there was a lot of people can almost look towards next season, but they did kind of finish the season pretty strongly as well to finish where they did in the league. But yeah, there was a couple of times during the season. I mean, you're watching Leeds defending, and just some of the basics were pretty appalling. But no, I remember Moffatt kept saying to me that, wait till we get Koch playing and your man Llorente as well. But yeah, I think was it at Stamford Bridge Llorente played, and he got absolutely torn apart.
He came back from injury early to play that game, and then ended up being out for another 2 months. But once he came back in, he was one of the best defenders in the league last year. He was absolutely brilliant. There's a reason he's keeping Sergio Ramos out of that Spain squad.
Nothing to do with a bit of Barcelona bias from...
No, none at all. None at all. And Virgil van Dijk as well. When he started that first game against Liverpool, I thought, fucking hell, this is going to be a long, long year. He played a game last season for Leeds. I think Leeds went down to 10 men. I can't remember who it was against, but they were 1-0 up, hanging on for dear life. And he came on just as an extra defender, take Bamford off or whatever. And the fella did his best to let the other team score. Everyone wrote him off. Never want to see this man ever again. First game of the season, Liverpool, go on Bobby and Salah and Mane there. Conceded 4, but he didn't play too badly. And it's only been up from there.
Just looking at the stats, Moff, I think you said 15 goals. Like, you conceded 54 for the season. comparison, Arsenal conceded 39. We only finished 2 points ahead of you. And like the stat that's really getting me, just looking at the Premier League table, because I think you forget it with the Euros and everything, that you were only 8 points off finishing in the Champions League places. And despite everything, like,
as well. Lost both games to Wolves, lost both games to Brighton.
That's it. That's they're the point.
Took 4 points of Man City, took points of Chelsea, Arsenal. Yeah. How do you lose twice to Brighton? Brighton just had to beat the Leeds. It's like once they saw Dan Burn out there and his big, long, dangly limbs, they just let him have it.
There's definitely
Graham Potter has to beat in the Bielsa.
Yeah.
He's the only one with the formula.
Would everyone be copying his formula next season? On next season then, like, given the stats I just read out there, what are you like? I know you might want to play it down, but Moffman, we want a bit of content. We want a bit of.
Also, sorry, we can't finish with an honourable mention. What a day that was! My phone was blowing up. Stuart Dallas double sinks Man City 2-1 after Liam Cooper gets the red card for absolutely welling your man in the knee. Also, don't think it was a red card, but oh, what a day that was!
And near towards the end of the season,
yeah. The Bielsa burnout was taking part.
What sort of messages do you get when you say when the phone's hopping? Then like Leeds.
Well, that was different because everyone wanted City to lose. That was a bit of excitement for everyone.
Yeah.
Normally none. You get real excited. You try and get a few reel out the fish, get a few bites off people. Doesn't really work. So you go about the rest of your day, make a cup of tea and relax.
So yeah, 8 points off top 4 last season. What's the aim? And you don't play us down here now, Moff. What do you actually want from next season? Like, what can Bielsa achieve? What's the end game?
You want Europe.
Yeah.
Nothing else. 100%. And none of this Conference League, I don't believe in it.
Neither do we.
Mind you, meeting Dylan Watts for lunch tomorrow and Shamrock Rovers are in that, so I better not talk it down too much. I'm not into the Conference League. Europa League as well. It's a lot of games. Give us top 4. You know what, Sean? 20 quid. What are you thinking? Leeds above Arsenal?
Yeah, go on. I'll have a 20 quid on that one.
I'll be so embarrassing, Sean, if you don't. Yeah. If your odds on there, like.
Live broadcast, you handling it over.
Yeah, Sean, what do you think for Leeds? And it's an interesting point that Moff makes, like Europa League, and you'll see it with West Ham next season. Like, Europa League can be an absolute disaster for teams, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you have to really bolster your squad if you go into the Europa League, and that's the one thing I would say about West Ham is they don't appear to have done a huge amount of business. Their squad looks pretty thin, and it did at stages of last season. I mean, Mikel Antonio has half a working hamstring between his 2 legs, and I think if Leeds were to go, say, I've got Europa League football, you're probably looking at that squad going a couple of injuries, and it's a long way off. And all of a sudden, you do what happened to Wolves this year and kind of not, get close to relegation, but you start looking down as opposed to looking up the table. And I think it's the ideal league position to probably finish in for a club like Leeds, in and around that, 10th position where they don't have any European football. But I mean,
best thing Everton did was get out of it.
Yeah.
Just a hindrance. If you're not getting in the top 5 or top 4, get out of it.
Yeah, you've got to decide at the start of the season whether you want to win it or not. Like, and especially the teams like Everton, Leeds, West Ham, they don't have the squads.
Is that what Arsenal decided the semi-final last year? They didn't want to win it, was it?
No.
I'm off. Don't get us started. Like, we'll do an Arsenal show. But, like,
whatever helps you sleep at night, brother.
I don't know how I get through it, to be honest. I pretend it doesn't happen. Like Smith Rowe and Sean, we won't get down to Smith Rowe, but Sean was giving out like we shouldn't be celebrating academy graduate signing a contract, like, but yeah, we are, because we thought he was going to Villa, our main rivals this season. So
a bigger club.
Yeah, we got a comment. So a bit about this season, just for people at the time recording. Jack Harrison from City, your man from Barcelona, 13 million, Junior Firpo, and we have Lewis Bate for, or is it Bate?
Yeah.
There, I'm not sure on the pronunciation.
Hope Connor is feeling all right. I was in Dean's Grange Pharmacy 10 minutes after him getting my vaccine, so we're both shipped. Yeah, apparently he's unreal. He's like very, very young, but just don't have him as highly as Billy Gilmore, from what I've read. So Never heard of him. Young lad. Hopefully he's grand, but need
Yeah,
a few. Hopefully, I think they're still looking at another centre mid. So that's
neither have I. Like, and I guess it's kind of rare to get players from big clubs for like an undisclosed fee. Usually, a player like this you'd probably get on loan or whatever.
I think he'd another year and a half. So it was kind of he wants to get out and play first team football. So
yeah,
but yeah, even that, like that, Junior Firpo Barcelona, Lewis Bay Chelsea, it looks nice. Nice to see your name alongside the rest of them.
And old Pablo Hernandez leaving this season.
Should be a statue of him outside. And I'm not just saying it because people compare him to Luke O'Connor, but he's a beautiful man. Some of that stuff he did in the championship was he was just he wasted his career being in there.
Yeah,
he easily could have been. He was at that Juan Mata level, I'd say, playing in the championship. Couldn't run, couldn't move, but anything at the edge. It was like Andy Reid.
Yeah.
One of the feet, but
are you, Sean, you're a Pablo Hernandez fan? Like
he's just a good guy.
Yeah.
Just a good guy.
Connor Swords, he said that vaccine hit me harder than Alan Smith leaving Leeds, which I think is a bit harsh.
We left out Alan Smith. Yeah, he was a big one. He was an emotional one. He did an interview on Soccer AM, the one club I'd never join, Man United. 2 years later, fucking hugging Wayne Rooney and the boys. It was pathetic. He was injured for the FA Cup final, so they acted as if he died and had best of luck smidge or something, whatever they called him, some childish. Don't talk to me.
2004 that happened, so it's good to see your
Mark Viduka as well.
Yeah, it is. I think that would have hurt the Smith leaving, all right.
Yeah. Mark Viduka, one of the best Pro Evolution soccer players of all time.
I remember Smith, just for United, his only contribution, setting up Rooney for that second goal against Arsenal, Sean, the 2-0 that ended the 49 undefeated run.
I remember reading a couple of articles on him and how they were saying he's going to be the next big thing. I think injuries kind of got a hold of him. But there was a few players like that, even just looking back. I mean, I remember being at a game one day and seeing someone's jersey with Yeboah on it and someone going, "You don't know who Tony Yeboah is?" And I soon found out who the great Tony Yeboah was and the goals he scored. But there's a lot of players like that at every club. But Mark Viduka, every time you put on Premier League years, he's there banging them in.
That game against Liverpool, the chip, beautiful.
Some player. Harry Keel.
Aliowski. Harry Keel, Leeds legends, and then in a Champions League game or Europa League game, 2 Leeds fans got killed by Galatasaray fans. So Harry Keel signed for Galatasaray, but it looks like Aliowski's doing the same thing now and signing for them. Yeah. So it's not looking good for him. He was a cult hero, the Macedonian Messi. Everyone loved him. Not very good at football. Yeah. He might get Pepe sent off, but that's as good as his contributions get. But it looks like he's going to Galatasaray now, so he's never allowed in Yorkshire again if that's the case.
Jesus.
Be the end of him.
Well, to be fair.
It's hard. 24, or he's like 28. The killings were like 23 years ago. You know, it's not like this 5-year-old Macedonian kid did anything wrong, but it's a weird one now.
Yeah,
a lot of loyal Leeds fans not happy with him.
And before we get on to the quick farm off, have you been over at all to Ellen Road?
Yeah, I went over. The last time I went over was just before the year before Bielsa came. I went to see Leeds against Newcastle with a few of the lads from school, and 10 minutes in, Kieran Clark hoofed the ball over the top. Rob Green was in nets for Leeds, just flapped at it, dropped it. Dwight Gale pokes it home. 1-0, game over. Nothing happened for the rest of it. It was either 1-0 or 2-0 Newcastle. It was the first time they played since Gary Speed died. So there was a full house. The place was absolutely bouncing. Rob Green drops the ball. Dwight Gale scores. No atmosphere the rest of the game. Like dead, dull game. Kieran Clark was just sitting at the back pinging passes for Newcastle. Like, you know when you're leaving a game thinking Kieran Clark looks good. It's been a brutal game of football.
And his Leeds is a good spot to after matches.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is good buzz. Lots to do. So
Very good. Are
yeah,
you, any plans of getting over there after the pandemic, or when you can?
100%. Yeah. We don't know how long Bielsa is going to be there for. Once that opens up, you've got to go and see him.
I want to go. I want to go over with you now. I think Leeds are becoming my second team.
Yeah, too.
We'll head to the quick fire then, Moff, right? So normally I was doing the same with Tim, like I laid Alex Ferguson. So this message. So your favorite manager has to be aside from Marcelo Bielsa, because I think he's Alex Ferguson's status already at Leeds, I think.
I love Dave Hockaday. I barely mentioned him earlier. Sorry, Dave Hockaday is one of them. He thought he was going in to manage under 23s under Cialini. He says he was well respected inside coaching. Then he went into Leeds thinking he was getting the 23s job or something. Yeah. And he was just like, I really like you. You know that you're a good guy. Do you want to manage Leeds? And Dave Hockaday said he thought it'd be the best thing ever happened to him, ruined his career. Just was never going to be a good gig there. But yeah, I like him. I think he writes for The Athletic or something now, and it's kind of funny too.
Jeez, very good. The worst manager.
Oh, it just something only lasts 4 weeks here. Yeah, it's tough. Darko Milanac, 4 weeks. I can't say. Yui Rosler, sacked from Wigan and then gets the Leeds job.
He did a good job at Brentford, didn't he?
Yeah.
But just not Leeds, because I remember getting the Leeds job. Thinking
sacked from Wigan and then got the Leeds job. How does that work out?
Was it post Brentford he got the Wigan and Leeds job, or was Brentford his first job, or do you know, Sean? Or?
I think it was his first one. Yeah.
Okay, so he got sacked from Wigan and then on to Leeds. Okay. He's managing at the moment, isn't he?
I think he's in somewhere in Holland.
Very good.
He's one of the clubs in Holland.
Best signing, Moff, or your favourite?
You're going personal at the moment with Rafinha. You can't beat him. Yeah, it has to be Raf. He's a wizard, isn't he?
Yeah. Worst signing again. This go on well.
How many keepers has there been? Brian Clough there is a good shout.
That's a good shout. Yeah.
Going back a bit far there. Worst signing. Fuck, that's tough. There's been absolutely loads of fella Matt Smith signed. Do you remember there was a team in non-league? I think it was a college town that got to like the third or fourth round of the FA Cup. He was just this 6'5" striker who scored a few headers for them. So Leeds paid a good amount of cash for him. Just tall striker, could not move his feet very well. And then we were stuck watching him for about 3 years. Yeah, Matt Smith, fucking brutal watch.
What's your favorite memory of Leeds watching a game? If it could be, what moment sticks out?
Yeah, no, Man United win was unreal. But Pablo Hernandez goal against Swansea, the 93rd minute or 89th minute winner, 0-0 game, and just so cool as you like it, bottom corner. I shed a tear that day. That was they hadn't mathematically done it, but they had done it.
Yeah,
that was when you knew promotion is. Just that 0-0. It was such a tough watch.
What's the lowest point or the worst memory of Leeds? Again, probably not a long list too here, but
your Cialini, they had banners up saying "Time to go, Massimo," and all this crack around the stadium. So all the trouble was coming from the south stand. So he charged them £5 more for tickets. So it was called. Then he tried to give them a refund voucher, so it was called pie tax. So they could get a pint, but it was a £5 or more. And it was just the most pathetic thing in the entire world. It's tough to be involved.
And then what away day sticks out in terms of say all the in all the games Leeds would have to play in League One? What's the one where you kind of what I mean? What was
Huddersfield? Huddersfield was always a big one.
Yeah, that was a big one for you.
There, to see Yorkshire. Yeah, Huddersfield or either of the Sheffields.
Yeah, because they were derbies that kind of got reinvigorated once Leeds got relegated from the Premier League, because you wouldn't have played them for years. So Huddersfield, Sheffield. Would there be anything else then that you want to get off your checks about Leeds? Because you had that thing about the defence there, Moff. So Is there anything?
No, I think once the defence shores up, the world's the oyster.
Yeah.
I've nothing
Sean,
but belief going forward. And I'm dying to see Junior Firpo. I've heard very good things about him. Apparently he was unreal at Real Betis, and there's no shame in being number 2 behind Jordi Alba. You know?
Yeah. Last question in here from Connor saying, is Rodrigo going to play at 10? And also mentioned Jack Harrison is an elite level baller. Excellent sign.
I think Rodrigo could replace Bamford at some stage this year.
Number 9.
What do you do? Yeah. Like, if you take away Bamford's hat-trick against Aston Villa, it doesn't look as good stats-wise.
Are you serious? Because like, I know you, just for disclosure, like, you weren't a fan of his for ages. Like, and
I've never not believed in him. I love the man more than anything. But I do think if Rodrigo's fully fit, he's a better player.
Yeah.
He was brought in to play there, and then Bamford started scoring, so you can't take him out. I don't know. If the 10, Hernandez, you can't. Hernandez was unreal in the Championship because he didn't have to track back. But in the Premier League, you just don't get away with having a luxury player who can only attack, unless it is Messi. So I feel like they might try and buy another centre midfielder and then have Click, Phillips, and someone else, as opposed to having a number 10. So I don't think Rodrigo is a 10. He's an out-and-out striker, really.
Yeah, Sean, for you, like, what's the end game for this last point here on the Bielsa? What can he kick on Leeds to Champions League? Is that wild thing to say, or?
I'm not sure. I think it's a bit out there at the moment. I think the big thing is, I think there has to be a lot of structures in place for Leeds to find a replacement or someone who's going to carry this side on and carry Leeds forward.
Sean, don't think about that. Don't think about that.
I know it's hard. It is hard, but I think that is something going forward with Bielsa. But I do agree. I think
Stevie G or someone. It's a horrible thought. Slavan Bilic and Stevie G were favourites at one stage to be next Leeds manager.
He could just stay there. Like I said, he's young compared to Roy Hodgson. No,
he is.
I'm all in now. He'd stay for a few years.
House hunting, loves the area.
Has he not got a house at the moment, or is he looking, or what's?
Who knows? He's living in some apartment.
Yeah, he walks around with Leeds tracks and stuff. It's like the stuff of legend. Like,
he just sits in some Costa near the training ground.
Yeah,
just posing for pictures. He loves it.
Yeah. Listen, Moff, it's been brilliant. I actually think Leeds are definitely.
You wouldn't get that from Arteta. You wouldn't get it from Arteta.
I know that. Don't mean no, I'm not having that now. I'm not having that.
What's it though? If Harry Kane is to leave Spurs, like, and they spend the money poorly, like, you'd imagine that could take them out of the top 10.
Yeah.
Will Son say if he goes, could be a very bad summer for them. Then if Grealish goes, you don't expect Villa to be the same. So there is that kind of wiggle room where Leeds and Arsenal are in a good sort of position.
Yeah.
Not losing their name.
Try to beat every club there at the end, which is a good way to end it. Well, thanks, Emil. As I said, I think Leeds are a lot of people's second team, so it's a good place to be, I guess. But thanks, Emil, for coming on.
Chat to you later.
Cheers, Muff. And Sean, thanks, Emil, for coming on.
Cheers.
At Tackling Sports social media, do get us. We'll be back on Monday to review the weekend's action, including all the GA and whatever else is on this weekend. And obviously the Olympics is kicking off, so we will do our best to try and cover that. So all I left to say is it's goodbye from ourselves, and we'll chat to you on Monday.